And yes, we are live, thank God, because I could not have handled a second technical issue for today. Saying hello to our friends on YouTube. We are going to start in just a few seconds. We have an amazing guest, the co-author of the Notes to My Younger Self, the volume 4 from the Paid Forward series, Leighanne Hromcik. We are going to start in just a minute, just making sure that everything works properly. Okay, we should be right on track with YouTube and going on Instagram. Okay, and we are live on Instagram with an amazing guest today, Leighanne Hromcik. Drop the mask. I think it's time that we start dropping the masks. And as our amazing guest says, one of her favorite quotes are live free. So we are going to find more about it. We are going to start in just a few moments. Hello to our friends that have already joined on Instagram. Okay, and Leighanne, if you are ready, we can start the actual polished recording.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm making sure that my do not disturb is on because, like I said, I don't want anything to sidetrack me because that happens easily.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you for that.
Okay, I'm ready. Recording in progress.
Okay. And we are going to start the actual recording in saying hello to my friend Joyanne, who is now in Iceland. Love you. Thank you for joining. We are going to start in 3, 2, 1. Is it maybe time that you start dropping the mask? Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 54, Drop the Mask with Leighanne Hromcik. What is very special about my guest today? It is more than her amazing, very touching story, which you are going to hear about in just a few moments. It is the fact that she is willing to share it in a book. She is the co author of the Notes to My Younger Self, Volume 4 from the Pay It Forward series. I have got to admit that I am in a position where I went through that amazing process with Glenn writing the notes to myself. However, as I'm still processing it, I can only admire Leighanne for her courage to have her story out there. This is amazing. Just a few words about Leighanne because she'll be doing the talking today. As a CEO, mentor, author, advocate for the International Imperfectly Perfect Global Campaign, she is here with us today to give us an uplifting talk on what it means to drop the mask. As one of Leighanne's favorite quotes is, be free in your authenticity. As a disruptive thinker, Leighanne is co-authoring the book Notes to My Younger Self, where you are going to find out how she literally lifted herself from the ground and now she is inspiring millions to live their best lives. If this is not courage, I don't know what it is. Welcome, my dear. It is amazing to have you with us today.
Thank you. That gave me the chills hearing that. Yeah. So, goodness, where to start? Um, where do I start?
Exactly. Where do you start when you have so much going on? Can you please share with us how has your story begun? Who is Leighanne Hromcik?
Let me just say this. Anytime somebody would say, tell me about yourself, that question, tell me about yourself, I went through, I think, my entire adult life until just a few years ago, not having an answer to those questions. People, tell me about yourself. And immediately, I'm a single mom. I had 2 kids. That was my standard answer. Or what's your favorite food? don't know. What's your favorite color? I don't know. What's your favorite hobby? I go to the gym, and that was about it. And that just comes to my mind because it's like I didn't know who I was, which is kind of sad for the longest. I mean, I knew who I was, but I didn't know just the simple things until a few years ago, and that's I think that's a big part of a result of carrying around and pretending and hiding and just pretending to be okay from, the stuff, the grief that happened in 2007. And I don't want to say too much about the book, but I do, you know what I mean? Because it won't make sense if I don't, but I do say in the book, and it's kind of bizarre. I know this, and I've always wondered what life would have been like had. Do you want me to explain? Should I just okay? My mom, my mom passed away of cancer, and I can go more into that in a bit. But and then 9 weeks later, my dad just suddenly died, and I got in a divorce a year before. And it was the reason was just not pretty at all. And so it's like I went through all that, and so I'm a single mom, newly single mom, and then they both passed, and I didn't know who I was when they passed away. There's something strange about, at least for me, there was something strange about going along, through life, and then, I'm an adult, and, I have kids. They were 5 and 7, I have a son and a daughter, 23 and 20 now. And it was the night before my daughter's first day of kindergarten, of all things, and when my mom passed. And it was, and then when my dad, it's still hard to even comprehend, but it's like I felt as if my foundation, who I came from, my mom and my dad and everything I knew, literally was just like ripped out from underneath me overnight. And it's hard to explain, like in regular words. It's a feeling. It's a very scared, lonely, lost, big loss, very much lost. For a long time, I believe, because after a while I just went about life, because that's what you do. I mean, that's what I did. I had 2 kids I had to raise, and I didn't. This is kind of where the whole hiding behind the mask came from. I didn't want my kids to see how sad I was, how much pain I was in, because they were young, and I thought I was protecting them. And it's exhausting thinking about it, but I would get up every day, and the second, I was in front of the kids or anybody, I was good. I was okay. I was good. I was fine. Okay, I'm fine. Like, those were the words I used. And wasn't. Oh my goodness, I wasn't. But I didn't want anybody to see that. And I don't know exactly where that comes from, other than I do go into a lot of detail about this in the book. I knew that if I even sort of halfway began to crack, not even break, just kind of crack, then I was going to fall to pieces. I mean, completely to pieces. And I knew that. But that was a long answer to not even a question. But that's where, back then, and I didn't even know at the time, I'll say this, I didn't know at the time that I was doing so much damage to myself by pretending to be, by staying strong, just, staying strong all the time. I didn't allow myself to feel, I didn't allow myself to breathe. In a way, just hearing me say this now, it's kind of like, it wasn't very nice to myself. I wasn't very, I didn't show a whole lot of patience or empathy towards that person, me, but, at the time, I didn't know how, it's I'll tell you this, I mean, writing the book now and looking back to how things were, it has opened up so many memories and emotions, some good, some really not good, questions that I can't ask my parents anymore. So just, yeah, but carrying that mask around until it was the end of 2009 or beginning of 2010, right around that time, when everything just, I cracked, and then I broke. And it was because I got into it. Here I am, just, just put it all out there, but I got into a serious relationship, and I felt safe with him. I felt safe, and I see this now, but I started to let my guard down because I didn't have to be, so strong all the time. And when I let it down, all hell broke loose. I mean, the truth. Yeah, and it was because she died. Well, they died in 2007. She was diagnosed with cancer in 2004. So it was 4 or 5 years of stuff, and none of it was good. So yeah. So drop the mask. That's the name of the business that I started after the pandemic. But that's kind of been the theme, all along, is when I didn't allow myself to be real and just be authentic and be okay with falling apart, whenever I needed to along the way in life, because that's just normal. We all go through pain and stuff, and I just didn't feel like I could. I had to be the role model for my kids, and it ended up not working out that way, So it was and is, and a lot of consequences will stay with me until I take my last breath. And that's, like I was telling you, that's a whole other book series. But I don't wear a mask anymore. I don't like the question, "How are you?" That casual question, because I didn't answer that. Well, because anything great, because we're not always great, and then I feel like I'm being a fake, but yeah.
Wow, you have.
That's a long answer.
I love it. And thank you for being so vulnerable and courageous at the same time and sharing this with our audience, because it's an amazing life experience that we can learn so much from. So, looking back, Leighanne, would you say that maybe someone that is going through grief right now, they could take your example and start to allow themselves to feel the actual grief? Or what would you say that the best way to deal with it all is?
Yeah, so my thoughts on that. Absolutely, you got to find an outlet where you got to be able to find. Trying to keep it all in is literally like a volcano that is going to erupt. It's going to come out sideways somehow, some way, whatever that looks like, because that's just the way that we're made. Our bodies are made. We aren't able to walk around like that. And I don't want to get all scientific, but I'll say this because it's rampant. Autoimmune diseases or conditions, they're rampant, but the rate of increase is just going higher since the pandemic, higher and higher, where people are, and I'm one of them, that, I don't claim it, but yeah, I have a few diagnoses. Yeah, a few, but, and a lot of that, now that I've learned the science behind it, is, I'm trying so hard not to do this. We basically, our internal system, like sympathetic nervous system, parasympathetic, and on, it gets out of whack when we're stressed in fight or flight mode. And I lived in fight or flight for 14 years. So that being said, if there's a way to be able to talk to somebody when you're going through that, but realistically, and I don't like cliches, and I don't like to say things that just everybody says, just because, why? I know for me, I didn't want to feel the pain. So it's not like I wanted to let it out. But if I had somebody at that time that I felt, something that I trusted and felt safe with, the no the ex-boyfriend now, but a friend, like a girlfriend, like not a romantic relationship at the time. I just feel like it would have been a safer outlet, I guess, for me. But everybody's different. Um, but I do know this. I think it's really, really unhealthy to sit in it, and to let it make you feel like a victim in your life. Because once that mindset, it even sort of goes there, it's like you're underwater. And I never like to see anybody feel like a victim, because it's just, if you're a victim, there's so much more to life, great things about life. But when you're stuck, let's say in the past, I was stuck, my mom died, then my dad died, and this is why I'm not able to do that. I was making excuses, and that's just I don't want that for anybody, because it's a sad place to be. I know, I've been there. I've been to the place, and this is me being very vulnerable, but I know that there's people out there that nobody really wants to tell anybody else that they've been in a place in their life where they just didn't really care if they woke up the next day. That's me trying to say it very carefully. For whatever reason, whether that was just a fleeting thought, or it was, it was just a state that somebody was in. But I, not at my parents, well, it was at my parents' died, but it was later. I remember very well where I was sitting, when the thought crossed my mind. I don't think anybody would care if I was here or not here. And I don't think I've ever, see, now I'm about to cry. I don't think I've ever shared that. Like out live in public. But I mean, I was there, and it stuck with me. And there was only one reason that I could see, like, sort of, kind of, everything was very dark, figuratively. And the one thing, and I haven't told them, but the one thing that pulled me out of it was my kids hate a mom. And that was me. That was like, if you can imagine me just on the fetal position on the floor, and everything dark, and one tiny little bitty ray of light coming through. And that was the message I got. And it was very weak, had eaten, and God knows how long. I was just bad time. But it was like baby steps, like literally baby steps. What that might have looked like. Okay, let me try to sit up and get some water, because I want to live, because I have kids. That. And sometimes that sounds like a big thing, but it was small. It's small and it's big at the same time. But it's like, had that message or that thought not come through, I don't know what the course of my life would look like. So,
Wow.
I know, yeah.
I mean, I'm just getting goosebumps now. And I'm sure that many people are relating to your story in a way or another. And I have to thank you again for sharing this with us. It's just absolutely amazing how you got to lift yourself up. So, can you please tell us again what was that message that got you to be really conscious that, hey, I want to live. This needs to stop. I'm going to go in a different direction from now on.
It's really sad, and I don't think I've really ever shared this either. Well, I know I haven't. And I won't mention names, but during that time period, there was somebody that I overheard in my life that said I would be better off not here, which was, I mean, it wasn't like I was that bad, but it was yeah. But hearing that, whether you believe it or you don't believe it, and you're down already, it's like being kicked even further down. And so that had happened, and that's when it all just got really, really, really heavy and dark. And I wasn't looking for a reason. I wasn't looking for, what's something I could hang on to. So maybe, I'd have like some hope or the will to just keep going forward. I wasn't trying. I thought like the end was going to come like within hours. Like it was not good. And I mean, I believe in God. Some people say higher power in the universe or something bigger than me to tell you that. But that's where just the thought came through that I wasn't willing to do it for myself, but I was willing, pick myself back up for myself, but I was willing to do it for my kids, which in a way that speaks volumes. Of course I'm doing it for my kids, but I had such a little belief in myself, or I don't know if it's self-worth or what it was, but I was just empty and sad and lost and tired and weak, all of that stuff. And yeah, and I think about that. I'm like, my kids are like my angels, but that's what I've called my daughter forever. She's my angel. And then looking back, she's 20 now. Looking back, like, wait a minute, that's what my mom called me. That's what my grandmother. My mom's mom passed away in February, and she was like the last, like she was, Mama. We called her Mama, and that was tough. But she called me angel. It's interesting how things, synchronicities, when you really look back, and you're no longer in that dark, depressed, I don't know if I want to live place. But like the sun's out and the trees, and it just
Wow.
I answered the question. I don't remember what you asked.
You got me teary-eyed because this is so much strength that you managed to create for yourself. And just, well, I hope that you are so proud of yourself, Leighanne, for getting yourself up there.
I don't know. I'm really glad I'm not where I was. I can tell you that. Life is so crazy. I mean, I look back, my kids are 23 and 20. I'm not in my 30s. And I look back and sometimes I wonder why. I never said why me, but I've always wanted to know why did it take so long, in my opinion, to really tap into the gifts that I feel like God gave me. Like, why? I don't know, but maybe because I needed to go through all of the things I went through so that I could share them and help somebody else. I don't know. But I was about to say something. I just lost my train of thought. Yeah, don't remember.
No worries. Maybe, Leighanne, everything that happened to you got you in this point of you co-authoring in this amazing Notes to My Younger Self book. So now that you can reach millions of people that really need this.
Yeah, and the crazy, I'll explain kind of how all of this came about. I've always, not always, but in the past few years, I thought, I would love to write a book one day. That'll go through your mind and one day, right? And right before the pandemic happened, in November of 2019 is when I got my first diagnosis, and I'm told I have zero immune system and blah blah blah, and the pandemic comes. So I spent, my dog and I, puppy and I spent a lot of time in isolation, two of us in isolation, because I didn't know, I still didn't understand what what's going on health-wise and what it really meant. But during that time, that isolated, lonely time, and I don't like to be isolated. I'm a people person, you know, I enjoy just people, period. But being isolated, it's like everything got, not everything, but for the most part, everything got quiet. Because I was a mentor. I was a mentor, am a mentor, and a coach teaching people on a global level how to start their own online business and grow it and And I partnered with 2 guys out of Canada. Love them to death. But you know, it was busy. It was busy and it was loud. So when the pandemic hit, the world shut down, right? And it's like all the extra, like all the noise went away. And I know this is going to sound really out there, but this is the best way I can explain it. It's as if the noise went away, and internally, like in my brain, it felt like there were, work with me here, a bunch of rooms, you know, like a lot of lights out, kind of. And once things began to, it's like my perspective, my perception expanded, but yeah, my world was getting smaller. But when I say like lights turning on, it's like I discovered what my favorite color was, you know, who I was and what I enjoyed doing. And I forgot I had this whole creative side, which is now out of control. But I just, a lot of things I didn't know about myself. That's when I started, dropped the mask. But then my health was just, you know, not the best. However, I kept doing whatever I could do and finding solutions and all this and that. So I was not so much out there on social media. I was a little bit more reserved, inward focused. And it was a random day and I was not well that day. And I was on my phone looking for Dr. Joe Dispenza's, a local group here in Houston. And Imperfectly Perfect popped up in my newsfeed, and I've been talking about being perfectly perfect for so long, and then, you know, so then, you know, I'm looking at the link, and then I go to the website, and then I'm binging the podcast and YouTube, and I got to, and just how everything came full circle. And then, you know, I met Glenn and got on a Zoom with him, and we were on there for probably an hour at least, and the next thing you know, I'm writing a book about the most painful experience of my entire life, detail for detail, very specific. And I didn't know, I knew I would remember details, but not that detailed. And once I started writing, it was just, I was the one, because we had, you know, a certain limit, like how many pages per certain sessions, and I was the one that was way over every time. Like, what am I going to cut out? I mean, and I kept the extra pages, but it's just, it was very, it stirred up a lot of emotions. And one thing I think is just a huge, and I think you mentioned that you did this, Susanna, it's just such a healing exercise, what I'm liking to is going, you know, now, you know, writing the note and writing about the painful experience from the place where I am now, and, you know, looking back and seeing that woman that was going through this, I don't think I have the words, worse than pain. It just, and looking back, and then it takes me back to my parents and growing up and on, and just, it is almost like I'm starting to put the pieces of the puzzle together about why maybe something happened maybe when I was younger, and why this, because I grew up with a very strict mom for the most part. She wouldn't be perfect, okay? That doesn't work, that doesn't exist, but I had to be a perfect size, a perfect weight. I had to look at, you know, all of that. So I grew up with a bunch of just pressure. And I'm pretty sure that's probably where I gotta be strong came from. But she passed away, and I can look back and see, I kind of feel sad, to tell you the truth, for her, because I think she was sad. And she was, so it's like I'm all grown up now and I can look back at that person and who I was younger and not feel, my dad never told me he loved me. And that, I mean, that still hurts, but I can look back now and see, not why, but I see it a little differently. It's not about he didn't love me, because I know he loved me. Still, it's but it's a very healing thing to do, to look back at maybe that little girl or that little boy or whatever age it was, and almost, this is what we did with the Nurture Himself, is tell that person, you at that age, what you needed to hear back then. And I know I haven't done the therapy, but it's it's your inner child, right? Something like that, yeah. I think similar to that. I don't know. Another long answer to your question.
I'm loving it. It just, Leighanne, it makes me think back to not too long ago, just a few months ago, when Glenn also helped me cure. I can say he helped me heal this social phobia. So, Leighanne, I had this thing when if I did not have makeup on, I would rather prefer to die in this instant than go outside. I would not be able to show my face online if I have not had the best makeup on ever. And Glenn helped me with that so much, so I can relate. I can see so many similarities that I was so sad because, as your mom was, when you think you need to fit a certain standard that doesn't really exist out there, it's only in our minds. And what the human mind does, it just amplifies everything to such huge extents that you just have no idea where it comes from. And we just don't need to even know where it really comes from as long as we get conscious of it. And thank God you broke free and you got aware of what are the steps that you need to be taking from now on to heal yourself completely. And I know you are an advocate for imperfectly perfect campaign. Can you please tell us, what does being imperfect and perfect mean to you now, today?
It means I can breathe and just be who I am. It doesn't mean I have to be anything or try to please anyone. I can just breathe. That's what I explained it. Because I know when I was feeling like I had to be this or I had to, just all of the be a certain way depending on who I needed to be a certain way for. I was like that chameleon that was dying. So that's exactly why I didn't know my favorite color or my favorite food, because I was avoiding conflict. That was a big one. Avoiding conflict. Just a lot of just not the greatest characteristic. But at the same time, not you, but if somebody would have looked at me and never thought that. I didn't have I don't know how to explain it. I'm kind of painting myself out to be a train wreck my whole entire life. It wasn't at all. I just internally, I'm just being so open and sharing what I felt. Because I don't want to forget it. I don't ever want to go back there, and I don't ever want to ever get that down. But I don't want to forget where I was and what it felt like, because I know that there's somebody else that's feeling something similar, and I want to be able to help or relate or be aware if somebody's going through that, because it's definitely not easy to speak up and say, hey, I don't feel like I want to get up tomorrow. That's really hard and rare. So it's almost, I feel, not that it's my duty, but I was given that horrific time in my life. I feel to be gifted a way to help somebody else. I don't want to just say, you know what, I'm better and go on with life, because it's just not what it's about.
Thank God you decided to write this book. And I wanted to ask you so that our listeners and the people watching us have this first glimpse of what it means to go through such a great trauma and escape from it. What would you say that the biggest lesson that you learned from your past is?
Oh, other than what I talked about, as far as wearing a mask for so long, other than that part, I the following events that were not so great in my life all had a pattern also, and it was always centered around my heart. So I would, avoiding conflict, I would, in a sense, give my power away to someone else to avoid the conflict or just to keep the peace because I didn't want to hurt again. And giving my power away over and over was also detrimental, destructive to my self-worth, my confidence. And then at that point, I began to teach people how to treat me, which wasn't with respect. So as hard as it is to not give your power away, you gotta find a happy medium. Standing your ground when you know, that whatever it might be, what something's right or wrong, whatever. But it can be as simple as, where do you want to, you're with your husband or your wife or whoever, where do you want to go eat? Oh, I don't care, where do you want to go? Just like always appeasing, because eventually the resentment builds towards that person or people. So resentment builds and the self-worth goes down. And then that's just another recipe for disaster.
Wow. I know that many of us can relate to people pleasing. I used to be what a specialist in people pleasing. And Leighanne, I can still sometimes see myself because I can observe myself after years and years of working with my emotions. I can see myself when I'm going in that direction. It's not fun at all, but thank God, as you say, that now things are different. We need to educate ourselves first not to fall into this victim mode. And then the energy that we send out to everyone around us is completely different. Like, I'm here to be loved, respected exactly as I am, not needing to be someone's toy or someone's playground, right?
Right. And the crazy thing is that, I know we'll minimize ourselves, when we're not wanting to, stand up or just, we're appeasing again or what do you call it? So we minimize who we are. And then once again, hindsight, in the grand scheme of things, let's say you walk into a room, it's a party or it's a meeting or whatever, and you guys might have heard this example, but with that feeling where you walk in and maybe you don't have makeup on and you're like, oh my God, your makeup looks horrible, or your clothes, or you're just not feeling it that day. You just think, oh my God, everybody's looking at me, this and that. When in reality, so many other people are feeling the same way, about themselves. They're thinking this, they're not looking at you or me, so to speak. And I had somebody tell me one time, Leighanne, you're just not that important. Because it was one of those where, everybody's staring at me, or, just hypothetically, Leighanne, you're just not that important. It's like, oh, I guess I'm not. Or, feel like everybody's talking about you, and maybe they're not, but it's, our minds, conversations we have in our head, that can be, I think I've probably been harder on myself than anybody else has been, well, other than one person on me, if that makes any sense. We beat ourselves up. And it shouldn't be that way.
Indeed, learning to be kind to us takes A lot of work. I know that I'm still working on this. And Leanne, I noticed that sometimes I'm not even aware of my interior dialogue. It's just so strongly imprinted in years and years of just beating myself, of saying my hair is not on point. And as you were talking just a few seconds ago, today apparently is not the best day for my hair. It's not the best day for some technical things. I keep pulling it and I keep pulling it, and it makes me so happy because I managed in a few months of working with myself to shift the energy to say, it's okay, it's just hair, it's just makeup, it's just clothing. I'm so much more. I have nothing to do with the exterior. It's what's happening here in the heart. And it took me so long to understand this because I would be feeling like you. If one if one hair would just be looking strange, I would be thinking, everyone is going to think that I'm a loser. Oh my God, I would go to the university where I would think that all of the girls, all of the ladies would be looking amazing, polished, with their makeup on point, with their amazing hair. But I think that in the back of their minds, they would maybe thinking, I look like a mess. I should not be here in public right now. So it's us being kind to ourselves. I think it's just the key to success in life. What do you think?
Absolutely. And it's a process. I mean, it's like it's a practice, and not to get all scientific, but I'll just say this. So we all have done this for the most part. We go through life, like you said, we have just the same repetitive thoughts or conversations that we're telling ourselves we're thinking. And we do every single time we have the thought. It's like we have neural pathways going to our brain. So that thought goes to the brain. And it's like we are digging, let's say, a ditch. It's like, make it deeper and deeper every time we have that thought. And in order to combat that and do the complete opposite, it takes practice. But I do know this, that if you're practicing, let's say, my one hair is out of place, you switch over here. Thank goodness I have hair, because if I had cancer and did chemo, maybe I wouldn't. And shifting it and then adding gratitude in some way kind of accelerates the digging of the ditch over here, if that makes any sense. And then that one eventually can be covered up. So it's a process. It's definitely not overnight. But I don't know if you feel this way, but as time went on and you slowed down on maybe the more critical comments and you started doing things that were esteemable, that built your self-esteem, did you feel like it was kind of a snowball? Like you felt better, so you did better things and you felt better?
Exactly. I mean, the good did not stop. For a few months since I got to be aware of just letting go of expectations, letting go of the exterior, validating myself. I would need so much exterior validation from literally everyone and anyone I would meet. So when I read about you, about dropping the mask, I said, okay, I think there's still a lesson for me because I still have some thoughts coming to my mind that I'm going to deal with the next few days because you've given me such amazing food for thought. And my dear, I wanted to ask you, how has your journey with fear has transformed through the years? How do you see fear?
I used to see fear as like this gigantic mountain that I could never even sort of attempt to tackle. And then I do have a little rebellious side to me. I always have. And now, and it's been a process. It's like the more things that were terrifying that I'm not going to say I walked through all of them. Because sometimes, I literally crawled through fear or through it to get to the other side, but I got there. And after doing that, with every time fear came up in my life, it's almost like I've become, not that I've become confident about that, but I've just, I've just had so much practice, I guess, that I realized nothing that I feared, that I made up in my mind, ever came to fruition to the extent, I mean, we, we catastrophize things in our head sometimes. It's, think the worst scenario. And that's, again, it's digging the ditch. But none of that ever came true. And I know for a lot of people, those things don't come true. And I just began to look fear kind of in the face, kind of like, not why me, try me kind of thing. Like, I mean, I'm still here and I'm happy and I'm doing well. And fear hasn't knocked me down again. It did, but I don't ever let it get to that point. And one thing I do want to say this, it started 2016. I don't know where this came from, but this is when I started the business with partners in Canada. In my first time started getting on camera and everything, I decided I was going to do something every single day that was uncomfortable. I was going to do something uncomfortable. It didn't have to be anything, big and enormous, but something I had to make a conscious effort to do something maybe uncomfortable. And I have continued that. I'm sure there's days I missed, but that thought process, I haven't stopped. And I think that's been a huge part of expanding what I know I'm capable of and what I see and so forth, which minimizes the fear in front of me. My biggest fear, well, I don't even want to put it out there, but yeah, I don't really like to put it out there, but my biggest fear has been fear of loving somebody, anybody in my life. If I love somebody, that they're going to pass away. And that fear, it stuck with me till probably about a couple of years ago. Not that I don't have that fear anymore, but paralyzing fear. Where, I built the walls and, wouldn't open my heart and let anybody in. And the second I felt like they were maybe going to kind of start getting in my heart and maybe kind of hurt me, no, I'm good. So there's so many lessons, and I would never get them all right, but certainly better than I was.
Wow. Thank you for sharing this. And as I'm hearing you share these amazing feelings and thoughts, I'm thinking that maybe life is all about just putting one foot in front of the other, and that's it, because we basically never know what's coming. As much as we prepare and plan and organize our lives, things sometimes fall apart, but maybe when they fall apart, it's when they fall together. So I think that as long as you keep on going, you're just living your best life. What do you think?
Yeah, in a weird way, I couldn't stand it when people would say this, but in a way, it's almost like a choice, or a choice to work on your perception, because I should have probably lost my life 7 times now.
7 times. 7
Not
times.
because I tried to take my life at all, but just different things. And it's, I've had a stroke, I've had 2 head injuries, you name it, it's like I've had it, and it's,
oh my
like,
God.
I'm still here. Like, I have 9 lives or something. Like, I'm still, yeah.
I mean, you've told me some unbelievable things, and I thought, okay, Leighanne could not say anything that could make me even more surprised. But it's amazing how much strength and determination to live you got from your amazing children, from God, from the universe. Call it any way you want to, but this is just amazing. It's like, thank God you have all these lives, like a cat that always, I mean, literally, the metaphor of the cat always falling down on their paws, on all 4 paws, is just amazing. And you always got to lift yourself up I can only count the days until I get my hands on this book, because the more I found out about you, the more curious I am to see all your journey, all of your emotions, everything that you went through. It's just unbelievably fascinating and healing at the same time. So, my dear, can you please share with us about the book, your thoughts, your emotions, anything that you can say about it?
I, when, and I don't even remember how the subject came up about what we're supposed to think about writing about. I don't remember what was said. I don't remember anything. All I remember is immediately I knew I was going to write about the most painful event in my life. And that's kind of what we're supposed to do, or the most transformative. And that's where the beginning of things just changed. And I began to write, and it was like I couldn't believe that I was writing about my own life. And I didn't sit there, and I sat like the furniture's moved, but on the couch, I sat there for 9 hours. I went to the bathroom, came back, but nonstop, and I couldn't stop writing. And it was very healing, but it was also very disturbing, um, because I wrote, and I'll just like, for example, I didn't hold back the details. My mom passed, and I was very specific about that, and then very specific about everything. My dad passing, down to the sound of the wheels from the gurney that his body was on, because my mom was just on the gurney going down the same steps, just the same hearse, the same driver, the same funeral home and auto value, just all of it. And going to the cemetery again, I did I gave the eulogy for my mom at her funeral, and I spoke to my dad, and then 9 weeks later, I'm somehow staying in the same place giving the eulogy for my dad. It's still so surreal, and just a nightmare in a way. But for some reason, going to stands out so clearly. Unfortunately, a lot of the details that I wish I didn't remember, still haunt me in a way. But going to the cemetery now for my dad, and the same people standing around. I mean, it was just like deja vu and a real bad nightmare. But the worst was trying to have a service, graveside service, with a huge heaping pile of fresh dirt on top of my mom's grave, and putting my dad in. I mean, it's just like that. Something like that is kind of like, really? Really? It's like, I don't know, and I don't know that I'll ever know why it had to be back to back. It had to be so, I don't even know the word. Like, my dad died. I was so angry. I didn't have an autopsy done, but the paramedics told me he passed away before he hit the floor. And, I didn't really want to hear that, but because of the way he was found. And things like, and I don't know, maybe you have an idea of why this would happen, but in their house, the hallway had I'm divorced, but had my bridal picture that my mom loved of me hanging up. And he died right underneath my picture, and his head went through the wall, right centered underneath my photo. And it's like, and I wrote about that in the book. It's just like, little things like that. I've asked myself, like, what is the symbolism? Why that? Oh, just, yeah. And I don't know the answers, and I may not ever know until one day. But so, yeah, it was writing the book and remembering all of that, because I remembered, but I don't think back to it all and go through the details. But writing all of that, it's just just almost scary how many details I can remember 15 years later. That speaks volumes too, because that's how deep it affected me and how ingrained all of it was inside of me, in my memories and just the experiences. But, on a conscious level, everyday level, I don't think about it, but it's there. That's what was almost bizarre. It's kind of like, what other memories are there, But I remember before my dad died, after my mom died, so in between, I remember thinking to myself, one day I'm going to use this experience to help somebody else. One day. And I didn't know what that looked like. I should probably mention the part about my mom. And her last words are a big reason why I've stepped out and tried to be of service to other people, which in return, right before my mom passed away, and I'll end with this. She was in a coma for a few days, and she was paralyzed, so you couldn't understand her, and she was pretty much not there. And the hospice nurse said that, it was time she was going. I'm trying not to give all the details, but my brother and I went in there, and I had never been around anybody that passed away before until then. But she woke up, opened her eyes, both of them, which that wasn't the case before. And she spoke. She whispered. She didn't speak loud, but I could understand her. And she said, she was alert. Very bizarre. I've heard that this happens, but it was just, she said, "Leighanne, promise me something." And I could hear her clear as could be, and I said, anything. Anything. She said, "Promise me." The irony of it, you'll stop putting everybody else first in your life. Promise me. You need to take care of yourself. I said, "I promise." And then she said, "I love you." I said, "I love you." And went back 3 different times, and then she never took another breath. And I never fulfilled her promise until, I don't feel like I ever did, until I started speaking up for myself and taking my life back. But that wasn't immediately by any means. So in a way, writing the book, that being a healing process and just talking about it, it's like I'm putting this all first. It's not me first or somebody else first. It's like a we thing. I don't have to be last. I don't have to be the feeling it. And I get to just be myself and fulfill her promise, my promise. And that's, so just all of it means so much that I can see in the book and how it all came about.
Unbelievable. I'm lost for words, so I'm going to. What can you say to this? Honestly, what can you say to this? So I'm going to invite our audience watching us on either YouTube or on Instagram, listening on Spotify, to just send us a note. Can you just add anything to what Leighanne has just said? So, my dear, I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. I had a feeling that this is going to be something that I have not experienced before. So much pure and beautiful emotion. Your heart is just amazing. Thank you for being so raw and so pure and so open with us. Thank you for sharing all of these amazing experiences. And my dear, before we go, can you please tell us where can our audience get in touch with you? Because everyone will want to have a talk with you.
Yeah, you know what I did last night? I went ahead and got a business text number, so you guys can text me. And it's easier than trying to find my email and then the website. They don't even ask what happened to that. But it's okay if I just give you the number?
Yes, please,
Yeah.
please do.
Okay, it's make sure I get the right number. It's 346-206-0999. I'm gonna double check that. 346-206-0999. So
Wonderful.
I've been wanting to do that for a long time. That way, I would love for anybody to text. Let me know who you are, so I know it's not some stalker. So that happens too. But and then my website is dropthemask.co, and don't even ask. I don't even. Well, GoDaddy, yeah, GoDaddy had a miscommunication, but that will be that dropthemask.co, and then my socials. So,
Wow, thank you so much. I also wrote the number down because I'm going to add it in the description of our session for today. I'm sure that everyone will want to get in touch with you, my
I
dear,
love
again.
anybody. Really, I really would. So ask me anything, say anything. I think for the most part.
Thank you so much. And I cannot, literally, I cannot wait to read your full stories on the notes to my younger self, coming in about a month and 5 days.
Oh my
So
gosh, that's
this
crazy.
is
I'm
going to
gonna
be
send you some
amazing.
issues.
Wow, this is going to be amazing. So thank you again, my dear. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
And now saying goodbye to our friends on Instagram. Thank you for watching us. We appreciate your viewership, your listenership. Drop a note, drop a text to Leighanne. This has been one of the most emotional talks that I have ever had, apart from the one I had with Glenn. Leighanne, when I was just literally sobbing. So have a talk with my amazing guest. And if you have any questions, Leighanne will be happy to get in touch with you. So thank you so much. Bye. Bye to everyone. And also, goodbye to our YouTube friends. We appreciate you watching us and let us know your thoughts. Let us know any questions. Leighanne is a sweetheart and she'll be so happy to have a talk with you. Thank you and bye.